On live.
There we are.
Yes, we are. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this week's The Daytripper Photo Show. This is episode something high, and we're talking about something about a photo challenge.
There we go.
Yeah, actually, we had a few photos for this photo challenge, which is great. And the theme this week was closure. So the reason I chose the theme was because, it's coming to the end of a year. There's a lot of closure. People have had a lot of life issues that I've heard about through the community and so on. And I thought closure would resonate with the world today. Mm-hmm. And guess what? We got 3 photos. So
okay.
It's okay. No, super okay, because the photos we got were from our regular community members, which is awesome. Love when these guys contribute. Thank you so much. And there's really good stuff to talk about on these images as well. Before we do anything, halt the presses. Phil, how you doing this week?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
That's
I'm rooting
good
for the Leafs. Yeah, go Leafs.
Leafs.
They're playing tonight. I haven't checked to see if they've won yet, but there'll be an update shortly on that. Last I saw it was 2-1 Jets.
Okay. Oh, boo.
Hey, the last game that I actually saw the Leafs play was against the Winnipeg Jets,
okay.
Way back when it was still the Winnipeg Jets originally, and it was at the Gardens, and we won 4-1. I was sitting in a box with Shelly. The Panasonic box, actually. I know I'm squirreling here, but it's a funny story here because at the time my bosses were I worked for Hi-Fi City, and it was Zahir Lalani and all these folks who don't eat any pork. And of course, the first thing Shelly and I do when we get to this box is order a huge tray of pork ribs.
Absolutely.
So, we ate well. Yeah, we ate very well. They didn't have a thing. Okay. But anyway, sorry. What else is new with you this week?
Not too much. I was hoping to have some cool announcements. Don't have anything yet.
You're just keeping us waiting for this.
I know. I have a side project I'm working on, so we can talk about my side project.
All right.
My main project is in figuring stuff out. So my side project is I've gotten back into doing a bit of woodworking, and I'm kind of exploring the side route of kind of one-off bespoke items. So like kind of what handmade, let's say like a holiday ornament or Christmas ornament or like a candle of some sort, different kind of jars, unique lamps, unique coffee makers, that kind of stuff. So I'm working on playing around with that idea. It's something I really enjoy doing. So if I can enjoy it and not just have everything I make sit in a cupboard somewhere, then that'd be even better. And with tools like Etsy and Facebook, I figure I might be able to maybe interest someone in purchasing something.
Very cool. Well,
but I don't have anything right now.
It's too bad. It's a perfect time of year to be talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, maybe next week I'll have like a candle or something, but I have a lathe, but my lathe is too long to do the small work that I like to do, that I've started doing. It's great for rolling pins, that kind of stuff, but as far as the more intricate, like let's say drumsticks or pencils or pens.
Drumstick pencils, how about that?
Drumstick pencil, I like that. It's just too long, and it gets a little too wobbly, and then when I make the kind of final finishing kind of cuts on it, I guess, it usually breaks free and tries to fly at my face.
That's not good.
No, I learned that the hard way.
Oh, jeez. So that's what happened.
Yeah, so I'm on
your mask.
Pretty much. I'm on the hunt for something that'll kind of fit that need. And we were talking at the end of last show about after the show, I should say, about an addition to that, doing kind of one-off laser engraving, laser cutting, and so I'm still exploring that option because there's a lot of stuff I want to do with it. We'll see if I can actually make it work. Well, that's the thing. It's a couple $1,000s for the machine, but if I can do really cool stuff with it, then that, as long as I don't tell Lindsay, doesn't matter.
And she never watches the show, so you don't have to worry about that.
As far as I know.
Well, that's really cool. And you know what? When you get some of those things made up and you have some samples to share, we'll get you on as a guest, and you can talk about it.
There we go. I'll take one hat off, put the other one on.
There you go. Gabe, how about you, man? What have you been up to this week?
It's busy week. Just finished a couple really big projects that I've been editing projects that I've been working on for a while. So hoping that's gonna create a little bit of spare time for me in the next little while, and kind of hoping to wind down a little bit before the holidays.
Okay. Yeah, that's always nice. You can just take a little bit of a break.
Yeah, when I don't know if I told this story last week or not, but my son came up to me and he's like, "Dad, can you put me in your calendar for like a couple hours tomorrow?" And I was like, "Oh man, I feel bad." But on the other hand, when the work's there, you gotta take it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and it works. If you got to schedule an appointment, at least you do it.
Yeah, I felt really bad when I had to email him and tell him I couldn't make it. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, buddy. Something came up. Damn it, right here. Your customer. No, I wouldn't do that.
All right. Well, thank you both for being here this week, and for everybody's video working so far. Knock wood.
Yes.
Yeah. That's always fun. Anyway, let's go to the Q&A here. Lena, hello. She's watching. Lena was on as a guest a little while ago. It was an awesome show. Christine, good evening. Hello, welcome. And Rita, she says she wasn't sure if she could submit a photo for closure that was taken prior to this past week. Technically, we're really hoping for...
Tell us.
I know, right? And this has come up before. I have to be specific. But ultimately, we always try and help, or we try and hope for people to create new photos to submit for challenges. So if you can make a new photo for the challenge, please do. If you cannot, and you feel your photo absolutely is awesome and you should post it, too bad, because we only take new photos.
Yeah.
So there. No, just...
The trashy is spoken.
That's probably why we're not getting a lot of photos submitted right now, because everybody's busy right now. I mean, nobody has time.
It's hard to try and get out and shoot
It
something.
is hard.
Yeah, maybe we should lock up for the last few weeks of this year.
Well,
Until the
actually,
holiday, yes.
it's funny you say that, because I have plans for this show. We have 2 photo challenges for this show, and we're going to carry those forward until the new year. So I think that's probably the best thing to do. And great idea, Gabriel. Well done. Yeah.
Mental connection. Or just mental.
Column A, column B. So, yeah, where we give the photo challenges at the end of today's show, you will have until the first show in January, and then we'll review them then. So, who else? Rita, that's what she thought, so she didn't hand it in. That's fine. Thank you very much. At least you're watching the show. Thank you. That is, to me, even better. Andrew, good evening to you, sir. And Tammy's just saying hi. Awesome. Tammy submitted photo for the challenge, so it's good that she's watching. She'll get to hear our photo review of that. So, guys, speaking of, like, ridiculous holidays, retail in this type of year is going to be fun. So after today, I have one more day off until December 25th. So guys, if you need me at Henry's, I'll probably be there. So luckily I had yesterday and today off, so I'm feeling pretty good. Got some nice time to read the Walking Dead books. Yeah. It's funny, Gabe, you were saying how you feel like you want to get some more time. You need some time. Maybe get some work done so you can have some time to breathe before the holidays. After the expo, I felt like that. It was just like nothing to do. It was so unreal. And now, guess what? I've got to start doing the expo again. So, yeah, my days off.
You ever seen Elf?
Have I
The
seen
movie
Elf? 3 times
So
today.
it's like, Christmas is over! Let's get ready for Christmas!
It's exactly what it is. That's exactly... Anyway.
It's exactly what it is.
I wouldn't do it unless I loved it. And come on, I mean, how hard is our work, right?
Yeah. No,
Seriously.
we're pretty lucky.
Yeah. It's not like we're building houses or Davis Drive or anything.
Which is looking pretty good, I must say.
It sure is. It really is.
Been there in a little bit. Is it actually coming along?
It is. It's actually drivable again.
That's good to
So
hear.
people who live in Newmarket, take Davis Drive again. Get off the back roads. You're clogging them up.
Get off Green Lane.
Yeah.
Green Lanes is always busy, though.
And you know what? But I guess getting back to my point, on December 16th, I work till 9 o'clock.
Uh-oh.
So this show is going to be a tight one, let me tell you.
No.
Yeah. We'll make it work. We'll make it
We
work.
can always
Start it
start
from your phone.
Do it from my phone. Yeah. On my bike, walking home or riding home. Speaking of on my bike riding home, there's still no snow. It's December 2nd.
Yeah, it's weird.
No, it's not weird. It's not cool.
Like, I haven't worn a winter jacket for the last 2 days.
I know.
Like,
It's
been really nice.
We can have snow
Put the
on
roof
December
down.
24th, and it can leave on December 26th.
Are you kidding? We're gonna get snow probably in another week and a half, and then it's gonna get like okay, and people are gonna oh that's not so bad, and then we'll get just ice. It'll just be ice until like March.
Yeah, probably. Well, as long as Don Komarechka has his stockpiles of snowflake photos all stashed and ready to edit, it'll be fine. All right, so
And
let's
thanks
get.
to him, I'm actually gonna try and shoot some snowflakes this year.
Yeah, are you gonna try that?
I am. I've never managed to actually take a picture of a snowflake. I've tried several times, but just never actually worked. So we'll see what happens.
Now that you've taken Don's class, you can surely do it.
Yeah, and I have a resource that sits beside me here that I can, read through and get some inspiration.
There you go, and you're helping.
Celine Dion song, and I'm good to go. I occurs to me it might not be a Celine Dion song.
Oh my lord!
You're my inspiration.
That's Chicago.
Okay. Well, Hey, you got one too.
Okay, so all the guys playing the game at home right now, you should be about half drunk by now. So.
Well.
Oh yeah, the Doncom game.
The Doncom. Well, it's a Daytripper photo game.
I was thinking about.
I'm actually just drinking coffee tonight.
Not to go on too much of a tangerine, but I was thinking about Don Komarechka the other day while driving down the road, because he's on This Week in Photo. He's a fellow Twist minion. He's on just about every podcast I listen to. He's on there at some point, and I kind of likened him to when I was in Florida. The people that live like 20 minutes away from Disney World. And they're like, yeah, I guess, we got the season's passes. We get them for really cheap because we live here and stuff. And like, should we go to Disney World today or not? It's like, no, we flew from another country to come to this place for 3 days. Like, and so like, people will fly huge distances to take one of his workshops, and he lives like 45 minutes away from us. So I think it's one of those things that like he's an international celebrity when it comes to photography, and we're like, oh yeah, Don, he's awesome. No, Don's awesome. We all know he's awesome. I think we kind of take it for granted his level of awesomeness.
Yeah,
he is our Disney World.
All right, so to make people not get drunk,
Don Komarechka.
Every time you say Don, take a shot. Okay, so yeah, it was funny. Speaking of Disney World, I was reading about some of the crazy things that have gone on in the world, and I went to the top 5 crazy photos from the war, and there was one of apparently Disney made gas masks for the kids to use.
Terrifying.
I know, but back when they were worried about Japan sending over gases in the war, they issued gas masks to everybody. And basically, whenever there was a drill, they had to get their gas masks. Well, for kids, to make them enjoy the drill, they made Mickey Mouse on the front of a gas mask.
Really gas masks.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Hello, everybody! Let's get gassed!
Okay, so we do actually have a show tonight. So why don't we start getting into the meat and potatoes of tonight's show? I think we've covered all 3 notes that we had at the because we're good at stretching stuff out. But first, just want to remind everybody, if you're watching our show on YouTube, please click the like button, subscribe to our channel, share this with your friends, let them know that we're having a great time doing this thing. This is episode number 153. So, there's a huge backstory of different shows that we've done. Some that you'll love, some that will just go on and on, others that you'll wish never happened. Yeah, we do. But
ignore 2 shows ago, 3 shows ago.
Yeah. Are you kidding? That was a great show.
For us and us alone.
No, I loved it. I'm still, to this day, it's one of my favorite shows, because you guys were freaking hilarious. Okay, but I do also really want to thank the sponsors of the show, LensPen, and also to Jay Miller. I actually went and stopped by Jay Miller's office today. Talk about a good dude. I mean, just the other day, he came by the store again. He's like, Brian, you got to get in and pick up your sponsorship check. So I did today, and it was awesome. So thank you, Jay, for sponsoring the Daytripper Photo Expo this past year, and to LensPen for sponsoring our show for the past year and a half or so. It's awesome. Good. Very cool. All right, so the discussion today is our photo review for the Photo Challenge closure. I thought we were going to get people closing a door,
and a road.
And a road. Yeah, some basic stuff, but we got some pretty cool things.
Absolutely.
Sports photography, closure, Mark with his goalie, the goal in the net, and Tammy had a great shot, and also Christine, thank you all so much for submitting your photos. So why don't we do a screen share? By the way, before we get into this, at the end of our photo review, we have three photos or so that we're going to talk about, and we are going to touch on Christine's photos from motherhood briefly. Briefly because, again, they were issued late after the show, and we're trying to not make a habit of reviewing photos that were issued late, but we got to talk about them because they're good photos, and thank you, Christine, for submitting. I don't want to take away from that, so we will get to those. We'll talk about those first, just very quickly, and then we'll talk about the 3 photos that were submitted for our challenge, and then we've got some interesting news. I know, I'm weird. Dead? No more dead. So we've got some interesting news. There's reports of Nikon apparently buying Samsung's camera division. I don't know how true it is. They are not legitimate sources. There's a disclaimer that we will issue when we start talking about it. And also, we will be talking about some other funny photography things. And also, apparently, Photoshop has just received a facelift, so might want to talk about that for a minute. And Gabriel, last week he was going to talk about the Google Photos, but
Right.
last week's video feed of Gabriel's kind of went screwy, and
No, last week was
and then
the,
you weren't feeling well.
Yeah.
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 You feeling better?
Yeah, no, I think it was because I had 2 dinners last week. I had Swiss Chalet on the way home, and then my wife was like, "Oh, I prepared these wonderful stuffed peppers for you," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, did you eat?" No, honey, I didn't eat. So and then I had the full dinner, and it was rough.
Instant karma, buddy.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Karma. Do not lie to your wife. All right, so let's talk about this. These photos. First of all, who is going to do the screen share this week? I will.
Okay, I'll let you do it.
Oh, okay. I was kind of kidding, but I'll be happy to. So
That doesn't matter. You can. I'm not terribly good with it. It always turns into me showing like 30 versions of my screen.
All right. Well, then the first thing we should do is I will do a quick screen share here, and I just want to say, "Yay, puppy!" Sorry, I had to.
Still back to screen. There we go. Okay.
Yeah. This is Mark Flinders, one of our regular community members. This is his new dog. I just thought I'd share the world.
That's a cute dog.
Mark's cute new dog. Okay.
Very
So
cute.
I almost squirreled, but I puppied instead. Okay, so let me go to Weekly Photo Challenge, and I will share this screen. Cool. Rico. Thought he'd pop in for a few minutes before bed, but up at 4 a.m. Yuck, that kind of sucks. Rico actually made the coolest tool, I should say, for me, and I'll show that later on in the show.
Oh, please do.
It is so cool, and it's already worked really, really well. I just stopped my screen share again. Let's try this again. All right, I'm new for this. All right, so here we are. Can you see the photos?
Yes.
Yep.
Awesome. So the first 2 pictures from Christine are the baby photos. Motherhood theme last week. Now, I was a little bit surprised we didn't have more people submit for motherhood.
Mm-hmm.
I thought once we changed to motherhood instead of yo mama, people would actually, kind of click with that. But especially considering the people that we have in our community. I mean, everybody loves their mothers. We have a bunch of mother lovers in our community.
Well, maybe we jump to conclusions.
True.
Did we have a Matt?
What was that,
Sorry?
Phil?
A jump to conclusions, Matt?
I'm gonna need you to go ahead and make more Office Space references. That'd be great.
Thanks. All right, so let's talk about the photo. So first of all, we have a baby, and by the hand, I would kind of say it's a man.
Well, maybe
or
not.
Maybe not. Maybe it is a woman. The blue color of
hard
the
to tell
pants
from the
make me
thumb.
think it's a woman.
I'm gonna say an Earthling. Let's just be as non-offensive as possible and say an Earthling.
Sure. Can you tell if it's a male or female baby from this view? No. I don't think that has anything to do with a proper critique, but we're
No,
just
we're scrolling a little bit.
scrolling. Okay, so when we're looking at a photo, this actually reminds me a lot of the photo I shot of my grandmother's 100th birthday, which is kind of funny considering what happens when you get really old. You're very much like a baby in some ways. So, without sounding weird, it's kind of true. Oh, it's her mother. Okay, so it is her mother. Thank you, Christine. I love this Q&A.
Which
it just
I
answers
think
our
might
questions.
be her.
Not quite
I'm
sure.
not sure.
But it's a great shot, and why it reminds me of the shot of my grandmother is because I have a photo of her sitting with her 100th birthday card, and the card is out of focus, but she's in focus. Where here, the baby's out of focus, and the book is in focus. It's like a reverse of what I did with my own shot.
Okay.
What do you guys think of that? Is this what we want to see, the book in focus and not the baby, or is it telling the proper story?
I think it's telling the proper story.
Very punny.
Yeah, you got that.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I think it's telling like the proper story. 'Cause we had the back of the baby's head in focus. I don't know if it would look as good. Yeah, like the few kind of pieces of hair, and that's about it. I think showing what the baby's looking at maybe tells more of it being story time than anything else. You see the hand on the finger, kind of. I don't know what it's symbolizing, but something.
It's a nice moment.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
that closeness, the bond.
Yeah, it invokes a lot of memories with me sitting in the rocking chair with Jaden when he was young on my lap, reading him stories, rocking back and forth and stuff, and then that the baby's hand is over the mother's hand. You really, when the baby's been up all night crying and wanting milk and changing, and your whole life exists for the first 2 years exists around poop, and then you're sitting there in the chair and they grab your thumb and hold on to it tight while you're reading them a story, and you're like, worth it, so it's sort of a sneak peek of the worth it moment.
And the best about all of this is that this photo made you feel that.
Yeah, and that's good. So it's conveying the story the way it wants to.
Well done, Christine. Well done. All right, let's have a look at the other one. So here, apparently, is the other side of this baby.
This was the, what did you call it last week?
Who, me?
No, Gabriel. Yeah.
Well, they put a kid in a drawer, it's art. I put a kid in a drawer, it's Child Protective Services.
Okay, so answer this. Would it be the same photo without the leg in the shot?
Pardon?
The leg.
It would be a little bit more child abandonment-y without the leg there.
So that actually gives you a nice ground that it's not that kind of photo, that it is a very touching, different kind of vibe. I remember when I was a kid, we used to have our toy chest, and I'd crawl right on in there just like this, and to me this is not an abandonment thing in any way, shape, or form. It's not like she's taking duct tape and wrapping it around the baby's face.
No, with the leg being there, it's like, okay, I need to do something here for 2 seconds. I'm going to put you here, and you're not going to move. Without the leg there, it's like, okay, this is your bed, and your sister sleeps above it, and your other brother sleeps above that, and I'm just going to put you all in there and lock it from the outside.
Like something Kramer would do.
It's a very efficient daycare strategy.
With Japanese businessmen. They're very little. It's very. I think it's a great shot, and I think it's really nice. I mean, the catchlight in the baby's eyes. It's a great image of the baby. My only thought would be, obviously, when you're shooting in a situation like this, and there's no flash, it's higher ISO. You can see it's 3200. The ISO noise is quite prominent on the drawer here. Not that you should. This is just something that is available. You could use Nick Define or other tools. Even in Lightroom, you can use the luminance slider and bring the grain down a little bit.
Or not even that. Just do a brush, because you don't necessarily want to reduce the noise everywhere.
Just in that part of the drawer.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe on the, I'm moving my mouse like you can see it, maybe on the leg a little bit, just to sort of smooth that out a little bit. But you don't want any noise reduction on the baby's face, because then that's going to lower the sharpness of the eyes.
That's right. Yeah, it would turn it into a painted look.
Yeah.
At times.
Yeah. The only thing I would... Sorry, I jumped in there.
Go ahead.
No, okay. You mentioning kind of about the leg. My only thought is possibly bringing it in a little bit and using the leg to frame the left side of the shot. So you'll know it's a leg, or you'll probably know it's a leg, but it won't have that kind of space in between.
Yeah. And that space does have contrast, and the contrast will draw your eye away from the baby. Where if it was cropped more right here, then the eye would stop there and stay with the baby.
Yes.
Very good point. Very cool. All right, well, there we are. There
Well, very
are
good,
the
nonetheless.
photos. Yeah. Thank you, Christine, for submitting for motherhood on the last challenge. So let's just get to our challenge for this week, which is closure, and the first photo is from Mark.
Yes.
So what do you guys think of Mark's shot?
I like it. I think it's kind of cool.
So I'm pulling
Get it? Cool. Hockey?
Yeah. There you got what I was
Doing.
going for.
Yeah. All right, Gabriel, what do you think? Phil short of words today.
I'm pulling it up.
Sorry, I'm in the middle of something. I'll finish that in a second then. I'll
Okay,
let so
so-
I'll jump in.
Sorry?
Okay, no, I'll let you go.
Good moment. Good capture. Yeah, sorry, I'm just sort of panning through it. I like the shot. I like the capture. You see the puck inside the net really clearly. It doesn't take your eyes don't have to scan the picture a long time to figure out what it's a picture of, which I like. I would have, with the post-processing, I would have cooled it off a lot so it's more white and yes, less yellow.
Okay.
Just my personal preference when I shoot figure skating or when I shoot hockey, I like the white to be white. So I would have done that. And yeah, the net is nice and sharp. Maybe, if at all possible, shoot with a little bit higher aperture to get more of the players in focus. But I know indoor skating rinks can be really challenging when it comes to light and when it comes to color balance.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely true. All good
Yeah.
points. What were you going to say, Phil?
I was going to agree with the color of it. It's a little off. It kind of looks. Now, it could be that I'm looking at it on my screen, and my screen's a little different, but it does kind of look a little bit of greeny. A little bit greeny, whatever we want to call it. But other than that, I like it. I like the kind of captured moment. I like that it's not flat, if that makes sense. Like it's not, balanced so that the ice isn't on an angle. It concentrates a little bit more on what's happening.
Right.
Yeah, putting the net right there in the lower third of the left, I guess.
Yeah,
And
and not
then-
having it flat, so not
Yeah.
having all the lines leading straight across the picture, and having it a little bit more, unique.
No, it's a good perspective.
It's an interesting crop. Like it's not a 4x6 crop. It's almost more of a 1x1.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, it leaves me, wondering like the player in the red on the right is like just in frame. I wouldn't mind seeing another version of this with maybe not 16:9, but 4x6 or something like that. But or just go straight 1-to-1. It's an awkward crop that it's, I don't know, it makes me feel uneasy.
Interesting.
I get what you're saying, because it's not kind of traditional, but it's not far enough away from being a square.
Yeah.
Well, it's that whole Don Komarechka way of cropping. You crop what you feel belongs,
Exactly.
not anything extra, not anything more.
And that works for this.
Well, my thoughts on this shot were a little different, guys. I actually
Okay.
think it's a bit dark. So my first thought when I'm shooting hockey is after we've set our white balance manually, why not? Just because we shoot in raw doesn't mean we have to fix afterward.
Right.
Yeah.
So I always, when I'm shooting hockey, the first thing I do is set my white balance. And then I'll also tend to overexpose by a stop at least.
Right.
For the point that Gabriel made directly, I mean, you want to overexpose it so the whites are white. If your white balance is set properly and you've overexposed by about a stop, you're going to get that real white tone, and the fact that you do shoot raw, and I know Mark does, you're able to pull that back just a bit to bring out the colors in the ice and all the lines and the detail, the scrapes and all that kind of stuff. I noticed in your settings you were f2.8, 1/500th of a second at 1600 ISO. With your camera, I guess you could easily have shot at 2500 ISO and had clarity, therefore making your image brighter by a stop or so. Or you could have gone from a 500th to a 400th of a second, and that would have given you a little bit more whites in the ice as well.
I understand not lowering the shutter speed, though, because it could have added a little too much blur. Like right now, there's not really any motion blur happening, but going down a little bit might have opened that up.
I think if he was shooting the NHL, I would 100% agree with you. For the age that he's shooting here, in my experience, 400th of a second really does tend to work.
Okay.
And this
I don't do a lot of hockey.
Well, on January 9th, we're actually holding a hockey class, and one of the things we always talk about is the level of play is, you have to up it, your shutter speed wise.
Right.
When you're shooting.
The faster someone's moving, the faster you want your shutter speed to be.
Exactly, and that's why we shoot two games of these things. We shoot one of the younger kids, and then we shoot one of the older kids, and we can really see how the differences are with your settings from one group to the other. Kids this age, and looking at their stances and so on, I'd probably say 400th would have been okay.
Okay.
But you know what? Mark was there, and ultimately, like Gabe said, the puck is nice and sharp. You can have good focus on it. I just think that if you were to overexpose, you'd have a little bit more detail in the black areas on the players, and also on the net itself would be a bit brighter. But that's again just being picky. Ultimately, I like the crop. I like everything else that you guys mentioned, and I just love the fact that Mark submits photos to us.
Yeah. Absolutely. It comes on adventures.
One comment on Brian's comment about setting your white balance manually. The only problem that you can run into with that is that a lot of times the white balance is different on one side of the rink than it is on the other.
And sometimes it's from one corner to the other.
Yeah.
That's the problem with the sodium vapor lights is they will change as they warm up. They will change from one light to the next light. So it's major.
And as the game goes on, the lights get hotter and the colors change more, and it's absolutely true. So that's why I usually do that at the beginning of each period. And also, if I do change, depending on the ice, depending on the rink, if I notice that it does change from light to light, then you got to make your changes, or just flip it to auto white balance. I mean, it depends on the
worst case scenario. You adjust afterwards. And white balance is one of those things that I feel you can adjust afterwards without really a huge negative to your shot, as well as I find you adjust white balance anyway. Like you can have a perfect white balance, and then depending what you're shooting, you might want to warm it up or cool it down anyway, just to get that feeling you want from the shot.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, Enrico just says, Brian, wish he could stay longer, but he needs to sign off. Just wanted to say that he's really not happy with the new Google+. He doesn't like the photo review and not having the ability to zoom in, as well the ability to allow others to download images. So when you talk about photos later on, Gabriel, maybe you can kind of roll that into the conversation a little bit. Because that's a good point that Rico makes there. But back to Mark and these photos. Good night, Rico. Have a good night. And thanks again for the tool. So maybe Mark says maybe he should purchase a monitor calibration tool. That might have something to do with it. If it looks brighter on your screen.
If it looks perfectly good on your monitor, but we're seeing different colors, then
it could be it.
Yeah.
Or our monitors are off, one or the other.
Yeah, it could be.
And I calibrate mine every month.
He says the team is his older sister's ladies' league team.
Okay.
That looked like younger people to me.
Well, that's a compliment for them.
It is. They're very young. It's awesome. And it was shot in shutter priority, so Mark chose the shutter speed, and the camera did the rest of the work for him there.
Now, there is a bit of a downfall to shutter priority, and that's that you can pick whatever shutter speed you want, and it might not necessarily be that proper balance of light. So if you are shooting in shutter priority and you are shooting in a lower light situation like this, or anytime in a low light situation or a bright situation, you always have to keep an eye on that aperture value to see whether or not it's warning you that you're not taking a correct exposure.
It's true.
And it will do that by flashing, either a high value or a low value, respectively.
Good point. Very good.
Quick side
So
note.
if you have your ISO fixed at 200 and you have your aperture fixed at 2.8 or whatever, or it's bouncing around, sorry, and it won't open any more than the shutter speed is needing, then you'll have that warning. Good point, Phil.
And it's a great way to shoot. Now, alternatively, if you find yourself shooting a lot of sports in tricky lighting situations, you can always shoot on aperture priority, which I know immediately sounds kind of funny. But if you go to aperture priority and you open your lens up as much as it can possibly go, you're immediately going to get the fastest shutter speed you can get in any situation. So if you're shooting something challenging, like you're shooting airplanes at the air show and they're going from a cloudy area to a bright sunny area, or you're shooting your dog in the backyard going from the shade to the sun back to the shade, putting your lens at, let's say, like f4, maybe 5.6, something that gives you a bit of a depth of field but still lots of light coming in. Your camera's just going to pick, fast shutter speed in the sun, slightly slower shutter speed in the shade, and you don't have to worry about balancing as they go back and forth.
And even better, a lot of cameras, like Mark's cameras, Nikon, he can do this. If you choose the auto ISO feature, and you say, give me a minimum of 500th of a second or 1,000th of a second shutter speed, and you have my permission to get to, I don't know, some of the cameras today, 5,000, 20,000 ISO. Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of flexibility there. But ultimately, Mark knows what he's doing, and it's a great shot.
More of just a general information kind of thing. Now, my only issue I have with automatic ISO is if you put it on and forget you have it on. Because it can work great in situations where it's like, hey, I need that helping hand. But if you forget to turn it off and you go out to do something like shoot cars driving by at night, something that you've shot a lot of, or you go out to do light painting, the ISO is going to be fighting you and giving you needlessly grainy pictures because it thinks it's helping, when really it's not.
There's two sides to that, Phil. The first side is exactly what you say. When you don't have the experience and this is a problem and you forget that it's on all the time, then make sure you don't use it. The second side of it would be...
Or just make sure you turn it off.
Exactly. Do
really
it
what I'm getting at.
Get used to it.
Turn it off if you
then you
don't want it on.
It's in your itinerary. It's in your toolbox to go and look for that feature.
Right. Well, and it just goes back to the general good practice of every time you pull your camera or your bag at a new place, just check all your settings.
Absolutely. A pre-shot mental checklist is great. I can count the number of times that has saved me from doing something stupid.
Yeah, you get done a photo shoot and you realize you were in JPEG the whole time or something.
Yeah, or you shoot something crazy the night before and you go out to shoot something the next day quickly. Take that extra 5 seconds and just run through everything.
It's funny. I have this little book that I always keep on me for every shoot. And the night before I do a shoot, I'll make a list of things that I have to remind myself. As I'm charging my batteries, as I'm doing my thing, I'll just sit here and I'll write, check ISO, make sure focus is this is what I'm shooting, so make sure you're thinking about that. So I don't know if everybody has their little notebooks, or Gabriel probably has it in his phone. But, there you go. What's that you're showing?
It can be a great tool.
Keep. So I have a go list in Google Keep where it's right before every shoot. I have a checklist, and my white balance went way off.
I know, it's the opposite of the grilled cheese.
Grilled cheese, yeah. The finger of balance. There we go. There we go. Yeah, so I have a checklist in here, and before every shoot, I just go through the checklist and just check everything off one by one, and then reset it, and we're good to go.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to do. In fact, having a little checklist before you go out shooting is a great idea, partly for settings, but also partly for pictures you want to take, or ideas that you want to experiment with. Let's say you're going down, and I saw an awesome picture on the Daytripper photo page. It was from... I can't remember. I'm trying to find it right now quickly. Oh, here it is. From Rich F, and it was a longer exposure of some pieces of wood and water, and that's really cool. But if you're going to do that, have a couple ideas of what you want to shoot and how you want to shoot it, because that way you can experiment when you're out there. Also, I'm just plugging in that I like that picture.
Oh, you mean this picture?
Yes. There we go. Yes. I like that one.
Nice. Yeah.
Although I might have cropped the bottom out. The change in...
The gradient there?
Yeah.
Again, if you throw that 16:9.
Yeah, maybe make it like super, like slightly contrasty, but like silvery black and white. Gorgeous. Looks gorgeous now, but yeah. And
Not as gorgeous as this.
Grimsby. So if anyone's near Grimsby, go check it out. And get some 40 Creek.
I just went 40 Creek. Oh, now.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's in Grimsby.
Have a lot of 40
jam,
Creek, and
baby.
then you'll think this is actually good looking. All right, so move along to the next.
40 Creek.
No. Thank you, Gabriel. All right, so the next photo in our photo review is.
I tease because I love.
It's so cute. So Christine submitted this for this challenge, and here we go. And now she was saying that she likes the photo, but there was something about it she didn't like. Now, I encourage everybody to look at this photo on your own computers. And by the way, one thing I love about Mark is the comment he made in the Q&A is a good point. Next time he'll check his ISO. I mean, we give a critique. He hears it. He doesn't think, screw you guys, I know what I'm doing. And I love Mark. Mark's awesome. Anyway, squirrel. So this photo here from Christine, I think it's a really nice photo. Tim made a comment that Phil, you connected with.
Yeah, I kind of felt the... hold on, I have something popping up on my screen. What is happening? Sorry. No, so I'm fighting with my computer. I minimize something, it comes back up. Anyway. I like this picture, but I do agree that I kind of feel like she's kind of floating there.
Yes. So let me read Tim's comment.
Can work.
So, hang on a second.
So I'm on the fence.
Okay, so this is what Tim said. Tim said, very good job at making the tattoo stand out. It does grab your attention. My only critique is I feel the subject is floating in a black void. I understand the contrast, though, as it does bring attention to your subject. Just a closer crop at the bottom is what gets me. There's a small amount of black negative space, but the image overall is great. So he's referring to the very bottom where there's that negative space, and it does look a little bit like it's floating a bit. I don't know. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. What were you thinking there, Phil?
Well, I know it can work for floating. It might not work for floating. I don't know. Maybe if it was all the way around. I don't know. I like the filling the frame of it. I like the fact that you really have not a ton of detail on her back, with the exception of the tattoo, so that does make it stand out more. And you have the person's head, so you know it's a person you're looking at. But I don't know. I don't know what to think about that bottom bar of black.
Anything to add there, Gabriel?
If you guys just want to talk for a couple more seconds.
Absolutely. I do agree that if we got rid of that bar of black, Christine mentioned that it would make her shoulders look a little wide. I think I understand that. Without having the little black on the bottom, it basically makes her back turn into a tetrahedron. I think it's a square rectangle with the edges, and that having it come straight out of the bottom of the picture kind of accentuates that.
Mm-hmm. So she says she totally agrees. She did crop it, but wasn't too thrilled with the results as it made, to me, her back look very broad, as she said in her previous post, like a football player.
Mm-hmm.
My thought is maybe we're looking at this wrong. One of the things I like to do when I'm looking at an image is think, is it a horizontal image or is it a vertical image? To me, this is the arms in the front and the length of the back. It lends well to a vertical image. Would cropping it as a vertical work better than as a horizontal?
So
have a little bit more of the body going down.
So okay, and then because if the more the body went down, the angle in would kind of balance out a little bit, and it wouldn't seem as wide, maybe.
Well, and then there wouldn't be a black void at the bottom. There would be a body.
Well, I think that would have to be... I think she was probably wearing a shirt of some sort. which is partly why there's a black line there.
And then ultimately a little bit of contrast to make the tattoo pop a little bit more.
But then it might have been too much light against the tattoo, and it might have gotten lost. I don't know. There's a lot of variables.
So one of my thoughts with this one is that it's very flat. Like the light is just kind of hitting it from one direction, and not really. There's not a lot of variety on that. So let me share this window.
You're gonna pop it into what, Lightroom, I think. No.
Can you see my Lightroom window?
No, we just see you sharing.
I just see your photo share
my
window.
sharing window. Okay, give me a second here. I shared the wrong window.
That's okay.
So Christine says that she's learning to like the editing process, something she's always trying to improve, as we all are, Christine.
Absolutely.
This is a challenge for everybody who loves creating imagery. You know, whether it's journalist or not.
Yeah, a couple months back, I was with you guys when you went to the, not to mention his name again, but Blank Hamarechka, there we go. Thing, because I didn't know anything about photo stacking, and I at least got to learn something about photo stacking, got to learn a different way of looking at editing a shot, and I also learned more about physics than I knew before, which is always a good thing. I didn't expect to learn about physics, but I learned about physics, and learning how light travels through something and how it spreads out focus was actually really cool. Albeit we didn't go into it, I think, in the depth we should have, but then again.
It wasn't that session, though. I mean.
No, that's a different one that I don't think.
That's a private Phil and John session right there. And maybe Ross could show up for that one, too.
Okay, so let's take a look at this.
All right. So what are you thinking there, G?
Can you see the one now?
It's still the preview screen, it looks like, or the web screen.
You actually are sharing Brian's picture. Like, you're sharing, Brian's sharing, I think.
While you're still trying to figure out how to use a computer.
It's weird.
I'm going to. I know, right? I'm going to go to Mark's. I'm going to go to Mark's comment here. He says he likes the photo because I think actually Mark makes a really good comment here. It's a good pose. The left shoulder could be placed further from the camera, angled away, using the same pose. Possibly have the model look slightly to her left and down. Now that right shoulder blade is sticking further straight out toward the center, and there's a little bit more depth in the shot. That could be interesting too.
I don't know. I think that could work too.
Man, it's funny though. Christine says that she did actually try that pose, and she ended up deciding on this one to choose. So that's interesting. Very good comments though. What you got? Oh, Gabriel, what have you done?
Okay. All right, now I'm sharing.
I hope you don't mind that Gabriel's altering things.
No, yeah. Well, no, I've done this before on previous shows.
Yes.
And kind of got out of it for a little bit, but I just kind of threw it into Lightroom really quickly and just some quick edits. So I did basically what I did with this is I did a gradient filter on the left, so it makes the light a little bit less even. And I'm wondering if one of the problems, like it just looks like there's one light shining right on it. It doesn't create a lot of mood.
Direction. Can
you do me a favor?
Mm-hmm.
You're still in Lightroom, right?
Yep.
Can you crop the bottom off?
Okay, so I did a 16:9 crop on this. So it's a wider, you can see on the screen here, it's a wider crop than before. Now I'm going to go into here.
Just because I'm curious what it looks like without the black line on the bottom.
But I think the hair tells a lot of the story, and
it does. So I'd want to see a bit of that, especially with the highlights in the hair not being completely eliminated by the gradient.
Yeah. So I've got a gradient filter on here. If I go into effects,
I tell you, the way you just had that with all the vignette in the bottom left corner and everything, I thought that was pretty sweet.
Yeah, so I've got here, if you look here, the graduated filter. Got a graduated filter here. So it shows some of the texture in the skin, some of the freckles, everything like that, which is really nice. And then I added a brush to the tattoo here, but just a black brush.
Okay.
So it brought out, you can see here, it just brought out the tattoo just a little
bit contrast
subtle.
Here.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it made it more in line with the shadowing that I added on the left
Okay.
of the body. And then I did a 16:9 crop and then reduced the vignette a little bit. But then I also put a radial filter around the tattoo. So the
Okay.
tattoo is a little bit brighter than the entire rest of the photo.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just some quick edits, and that's literally like 30
Now,
seconds.
to be
30
fair, they're
second
quick
edit.
edits for you because you're, really good at the Lightroom side of things. But definitely getting in and playing around with things like the gradient filter and like the brush tool can be outstanding. To be honest, I didn't really use a lot of the gradient filter or the brush tool. Actually, I didn't really use that much of Lightroom to its full capacity, I'm going to say, until I actually came on here with you guys. And it was, I think, the second or third episode I was on here. You pulled someone's picture in and started, painting things in. And I was like, that's awesome. That's something that I should, actually use for my pictures. And I have to say that I've started using that in the Lightroom that version of Lightroom I have on some of the pictures I've been shooting. And
Mm-hmm.
I am getting results that I'm severely happy with out of pictures that I liked before, but just going that extra, playing around with some of the like the gradients, playing around with some of like the painting in light areas or darker areas.
Right.
I've come up with shots that I really, really like.
That's cool, and that's how it should be. I mean, if you just keep your screen there, Gabriel, I'll toggle between mine and yours, and see what Christine says. I'd love to hear your opinion, Christine, on what Gabriel's done with the shot, because you asked for it. So that's what Gabe did, and I think it's a really great rendition of what you have. I think the concept was there, and as Gabe has shown, a 30-second edit when you know what you're doing can make a huge difference in the photo.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the original photo, and there's with my edit. So it's about it's a good photo. In order to you have to. The only thing that isn't changing is the crop, but you have to have a good basis to start off with, and it's a good foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And all this is just it's what we're always talking about, adding that extra 5%.
Mm-hmm.
So Christine says she loves the changes you did with the lighting, Gabe. She still has this feeling about the crop, though. Just not sure if the model looking naked with a tattoo of her dad's name seems to fit. Good point.
You're looking at it that way.
Yeah, she loves the editing, though, and she's very jealous that you can. Now, Christine, so Gabriel will be leading a Daytripper darkroom session, and he will probably cover a lot of the stuff that you're seeing here in that session. So, yeah, very jealous you can do it that quickly. Well, you can too with practice, and that's why we're going to be doing the Daytripper darkroom sessions starting January. Also, Lena made a good point. She says if wanting to have the symmetrical look to it, maybe if changing the angle of the camera a little higher changes this perspective and the relation of the shoulder and the head to each other, which will make the shoulder not as wide. So if you shoot from higher up looking down, it changes that feel as well.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Okay.
And it is a very emotional photograph. That's a great point, Lena. Very cool.
Yes.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's it, isn't it?
No, we have one more.
Do we have one more?
The swimming one.
Yes.
Oh, yes, of course. Hang on 1 second. My computer stopped wanting to show me something nice there.
That's okay.
Posts, weekly photo challenge, and okay, so here's Tammy's photo. This is the final image of our photo review, and then Gabriel's going to be talking about some stuff. So here we go, guys.
Okay, let's take a look at this.
And you're welcome for the feedback, Christine.
Clicky.
Okay, so this is a cool shot. I totally agree with what Tammy says in her description. It is extremely hard to shoot in these low light situations. But it's funny. My first thought when I saw this, and it kind of made me think that it's very similar to hockey, where you don't need ridiculously high shutter speeds for some of the level of play. But every photo that I saw from swimming was like 3200th of a second. Ridiculously high shutter speeds. I was surprised. I thought you could get away with a slower shutter. So
think that you can probably get away with slow shutter for the movement of the person per se, for most of, let's say, the strokes that they might be doing. But if you get into someone doing like super fast, like butterfly or breaststroke or something, and you want to keep all of the water sharp, I think you're gonna have to get pretty high.
And I think it also has a lot to do with if they're coming toward you or going side to side.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, because that has a big influence on it. But Tammy shot this at about 5,000 ISO, and yes,
Okay.
even with the mighty D750, when you start cropping in, as she said that she would have to because she's farther away, you start to get those little ISO squiggles in your photo.
But we're saying this like it's a bad thing. You're at a ridiculously high ISO that cameras like 5 years would never be able to go to.
I've shown
And
the
they're
photo of the
taking-
wolf that I shot with my D700, a D700 that I bought specifically to shoot at high ISO. At this ISO, it was just mosaic. It was like a...
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're absolutely right. We're spoiled these days.
We are super spoiled, and like I love going back and looking at pictures, like film pictures of hockey games or film pictures of like a sporting event, and they're not sharp. There's a little bit of motion blur because it was the best they could do, and now we have these cameras that it's like, oh, I had to shoot this at 25,000 ISO, and it's got a bit of grain. I'm upset. Like, it looks awesome still.
So Tammy just says swimming is so fast they become a blur. Shutter speeds have to be high. Think like flying birds of prey. Now,
But
flying birds
inside.
of prey are 1/1600th of a second to 2,000 shutter speed. I mean, you don't necessarily need 3,200th of a second. So most birds of prey photos don't come in around that high shutter speed either. It just seems that hockey is where you have to do it. And also, I think a lot of that has to do with the area you're shooting. If you were going to shoot in some areas, like Olympic pools, they have lights all across the whole ceiling. So on a nice day, you could get away with 400 ISO and get all the shutter speed you need. But most of the pools around this area that I know of, at least, are all indoor with only lights or windows on the sides, nothing above. So that would make it really hard for sure.
Now, it could go both ways. It could be good and it could be bad. But with the Nikon 750, I believe, with the 750, you have the Auto FP feature on the flash. So you could try and add a bit of light to freeze some motion.
Okay, so she says that they're not allowed to use flash.
Okay, well, that takes that fun away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Birds of prey indoors without the great light. Yes, I'll give you that.
Yes.
It's absolutely true. Absolutely true. And it's all about light. I mean, after all, what does photography stand for, people?
Just painting with light.
Exactly. Photography. No, what do you think of compositionally? Gabriel, what do you think of this shot?
Compositionally?
Is it telling a story?
Yeah, I feel like I'm a bit of a broken record here tonight with my 16:9, but I could see this as a 16:9.
Yes.
I think there's a little bit more information on the top that we don't need.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And a little more on the left that we don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leading in a little bit more.
But even if we just got rid of the diving stand on the top, or at least some of that, and make the brightest area of the photo be the cap, then that's going to draw your head down there first, and then your eyes will start to explore. But right now, the brightest area is in competition with the areas on the right and the cap.
That's a point that we make quite regularly, and we always try and remind people that the eye is drawn to contrast. And whatever in your photo has the most contrast is where your eye is going to land. And if you can try and navigate your photo or crop or correct your photo to make the focal point the brightest thing in your photo, that's a trick to keep the eye on what you're trying to see, or trying to show, I should say. And I do like the very bright colors in this. That's what caught my eye first. When I first saw the shot, Christine makes some point. She really likes the colors in the photo. It's very bright. The yellow, the blues, the reds. I mean, they're very clean colors. But I think I like Gabriel's point about making the brightest thing the head.
Okay.
So anyway, that is our thoughts on these photos, and I really, really, really thank everybody for submitting images for our photo challenge this week. A lot of fun. Very cool. Can you imagine if we had 30 shots, we wouldn't have been able to give that good details?
No, we'd have to have two nights or something.
And we've done that before.
Yeah, we have.
I predict that early January we will be having several shows for reviews because the themes are going to be, I'm not going to call them easy. I don't like calling anything easy, but the themes will be fairly straightforward, and I think they will connect with a lot of people. So
as challenging as you wish to make them.
Yeah, exactly. And I really hope to see something fun, and hopefully the second theme will be something you guys can see. Even?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so here is the photo challenge. Here are the photo challenges for the upcoming weeks. And remember, guys, these are going to go until the first show in January, which will be January the 6th, which just happens to be Epiphany, apparently.
A what?
Epiphany.
Okay.
I don't know. It's just what it says on my calendar. I have to learn what Epiphany is now.
I don't know.
So, do you know what it is?
Epiphany? Well, Epiphany is when you have like a great idea.
Well, yes, but I think this is a religious thing.
Oh, as it was said in Hook by Shmi, it's like, I think I just had an apostrophe. And so now it is forever pronounced apostrophe in our house. I had an apostrophe. We should do this today.
Oh, dear.
Okay, so the photo challenges for the next couple of weeks. The first one, if our sound guy can give me a drum roll.
I'm working on it. I forgot where it was.
Oh, you silly fella. So I'll help you out with it.
I got it. Oh.
Family. Perfect time of the year to have family photos. So photo challenge number 1 is family. Like to see some cool stuff there. The second photo challenge of the next coming weeks is...
I got this one.
Winter scene. And that's what I hope people...
Oh, hold on.
Winter scene.
I walked out of my house yesterday. It was raining. It was so beautiful.
Oh, you sick fella. I don't know about you guys. I love winter. I mean, there's a reason I like living in Canada. I like being Canadian. I'm a hardy guy. I like walking to work every day, and walking in the snowstorm is one of the coolest things, especially like December 22nd, walking home at 9 p.m. or later with my 3 different jackets on and my gloves, my super awesome gloves, and listening to some tunes. So cool. So cool.
I like winter when my house is warm.
Yes.
I'll like next winter after we spend $20,000 adding insulation and siding and windows to our house. When I'm in my bathroom and I'm looking at the spider webs on the inside of the closed window going in the breeze that's coming through them.
Yeah.
It's like, no. Our house is it's very, very cold in the winter. Last winter was one of the worst winters we've ever had, and it was our first winter in the house, and it was hellish. So
for those of you who don't know, Gabriel actually lives in the Northwest Territories and lives in a log cabin that was made in the 1500s.
Well, it's not uncommon to have air coming through windows. Like, you might notice behind me I have a bunch of white spots on my walls. I'm doing random repairs to this place, and one of them is the windows that have been installed by whoever installed the windows did a absolutely terrible job, to the point where I'm pretty convinced there's no spray foam around the windows. So I'm going through, all of the caulking was cracked on both the outside and the inside, so I just recaulked the inside of the windows so that the air doesn't come through as easily. This office used to get freezing cold, and after doing that, it's actually a livable temperature. It got so cold, and I couldn't figure out what was happening. It got so cold that my computer, my iMac, wouldn't start. I had to warm the room up before it wanted to start. And I couldn't figure out what was happening because I thought it was just it acting funny, so I'd pull the RAM out and put it back in, as you do when your Mac doesn't work, and couldn't figure it out. And then it was a couple minutes of having the door open, temperature comes up, and the thing turns on. So I fixed the windows. Seems to be doing better.
Nice.
Wow, I'm spoiled. Totally spoiled. I have my window open right now, as you can see.
Well, that's the other downfall to fixing the windows is now it actually gets kind of warm in this room.
Yeah. I see. I had a cure-all for all of this. I married a Christmas elf. This time of the year, it's the coziest house in the world.
smells like cookies.
It does. It smells like cookies.
Warm.
Cinnamon brew is on the stove. It's amazing. Yes, I'm lucky. Okay, back to our show. So, speaking, of course, of disclosure,
Yep.
did you guys see, or not disclosure, closure,
Yes.
mixing disclaimer and closure into one word. Did you hear the rumors, and these are just rumors, Daytripper Photo is not responsible for spreading any of these rumors, but Samsung apparently is pulling out of several European countries, and it's potentially getting out of the digital camera market altogether, it seems.
They said that they're still very committed to the digital camera market, but in those areas, sales have been going down increasingly, so they're just leaving.
Yeah, and of course they're going to hang on to some parts of it. I mean, they make cell phones. Cell phones have cameras, so
right.
They have to still have all that kind of stuff. But apparently there's also rumors that Nikon has been buying or has bought much of Samsung Camera's division. So,
well, and Samsung uses Sony sensors in a lot of their products, and so does Nikon. So I don't know exactly what they're going to be.
Well, Samsung makes their own sensors. Samsung makes their own, Sony makes their own, and Nikon has been having their proprietary CMOS chips built by another company with Nikon standards. So I don't know how much Nikon needs Samsung. I mean, they have the Sony sensors, they have their own things going on. I really don't think that they need them. And
you hear the rumor that Canon was trying to buy Sigma not too long ago.
Really?
And and apparently Sigma said no. And then you hear the rumor of this, so I think both companies are realizing that they have to up their game because Sony's eating their lunch.
Hmm.
And,
with a certain style of camera.
Well, with mirrorless, yeah, but I mean that's becoming sort of more. That's all you hear about on podcasts nowadays, and it's to the point where they're like, oh, you still shoot with a DSLR? It's like, yes, I do, because there's certain things mirrorless just can't get yet.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm borderline going on a rant right now, and I'm really talking myself down from it because it's frustrating for me. So much of the shooting I do, whether it's on day trips or just having fun, has a lot to do with the features that my camera offers.
Mm-hmm.
Built-in time lapse, the intervalometer feature, multiple exposure in camera, off-camera flash capability, so many things that I use that I haven't seen a compact system camera offer. And I'm sorry, but you buy a full-frame camera, you have a big sensor, which means you have big lenses. You have big lenses, you have a big camera. I don't care if it's a mirrorless or not.
It's still going to be big.
The lenses are still big. It's still a heavy camera, and now it just feels awkward because you've got this tiny little camera with these big lenses. And
there is a good use of them. They're great if you I remember when Nathan
as a status symbol. That's what I see.
Wow.
People buy them and they're like, "Hey, look, I drive a Mercedes and use my Sony A7." Sorry, that's my tangent.
Well, it depends on the type of
You want that
photography that you do.
Exactly, and it really doesn't matter. I think so much what you shoot as long as you can shoot. We were talking about someone who I'm not naming earlier this evening and takes absolutely terrible pictures. And shoots with a rather bad camera. But you could also give that exact same camera to someone who actually knows what they're doing and take outstanding results.
I was going to say, my first 5 years in business, I shot with that camera.
Yeah, and
better lenses.
If you actually shot with the knowledge of how you should shoot, you wouldn't have the same issue that Australian photographer had with the 20 people that were very angry with him.
Yeah, speaking of closure once again, that's an interesting story. Good segue there.
You're welcome. It's only a good segue if you point it out.
Yeah.
If I've learned anything from the Tested podcast, it's you have to point out a good segue.
So this is what you're talking about. There was a story of 20 angry newlyweds ambush their wedding photographer who ruined their big day. Gabriel, you've had this happen, haven't you?
Whoa!
No, of course you haven't. You're amazing. But seriously, could you imagine being on like a shoot or being hired for a shoot and showing up and being ambushed?
Yeah.
Like, okay,
that's
so
very bad.
what's the problem here? Like, I've seen that stupid show on TV where they basically go to contractors who have fled and done crappy work, and
Peanut mugs.
yeah, what's his name?
Peter
Rick
Mug.
Mercer is in it, I think.
Okay. And then it's like
Not
sit there,
Rick
take a seat.
Mercer.
Just take
No.
a seat. Take a seat right there. Take a
It's
seat.
actually not Rick Mercer. It's
Oh, well, I'm thinking
another
of a different show.
comedian who basically is teamed up with a construction guy because apparently he was a carpenter before he was a comedian.
Okay.
And they basically smash. You know, they walk into this house that was trashed by contractors, and they make them own up. And here's what has happened to this photographer guy. And you know, the unfortunate thing is, he's a classic one-man show photographer. I mean, he's one guy. He has all this business that he's getting, and apparently he can't handle the workload, and it's making his work suffer. And long story short, this is a classic situation where, as a businessman, a sole proprietor, you need a team
Or you need
to really
you know,
be
manage
effective in
expectations.
some cases. Or you just have to be a really good photographer.
Like,
Mhm.
I had a more or less one-person team shoot my wedding, and yes, there was someone else there shooting who was kind of like a bonus, but it still came out with great results. I think it comes down to caring about what you do, and at some point, you either don't notice or don't care that your quality slips. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. I clicked on the video, and it was 15 minutes long, and I was like, well, I have 3 minutes before the show starts, so I have absolutely no idea what happens in the story. I just know the headline, but it's, oh dear, parents are naming babies after Instagram filters. That's
Oh my
what you should have been
God.
talking about, because if I'm naming a baby after a filter, it's going to be a name like Tiffin or B+W, some weird thing. I'll be like, hey, Tiffin, come here, neutral density, stay on the couch.
How about? Well, I mean, the filters on Instagram are like Holga and
Yeah.
Kelvin and
Yeah.
oh god,
Which, Kelvin can be a good name.
yeah. All right, well, it seems like everybody's kind of tuning out, and it's a long show already. So Kelly
All right.
and Christine and everybody, thank you so much for watching. And
Yes, absolutely.
you know,
It's-
it's been a fun show, Gabriel. Though before we go, I do want you to talk about photos because this is the second week in a row.
Oh,
that,
okay. So let's push it off to next week because it's already 10:43. All I want to say is Google Photos. I saw some people in the comments ranting about how they couldn't find anything in Google Photos and how they didn't like how Google Photos was organized. And I noticed a huge disconnect between my regular customers, my computer customers, which are just average users, and literally they are so in love with this product, it brought one of them to tears because they were able to find pictures that they were never able to find before. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. All I'm going to say is think different about how you search for photos. Don't search for photos that you took on January 15th. Search for photos that had a person that you know and something else in it, and search for that. Like when I want to find a picture of Jaden with a lollipop, I put in Jaden in red, and it pulls up all the pictures of my son with red things in the photo.
Okay.
So don't think Lightroom organization, think machine learning. Think there is an actual machine going through your photos and categorizing what's in every photo. And I think it can change your experience with that product. So I'll go into it more next week. I've got some examples and stuff set up.
Cool.
But over the next week, just think about it different. Don't think about it as linear, as folder structured as that.
Okay.
And I think it'll change your experience with it.
Okay.
Awesome, good tip. And speaking of next week's show, I just want to remind everybody, next week we have our traveling photographer is going to be on the show for the first time. I know one of our community members, Glenn Hovers, has basically quit life and lived life, which is really cool. He quit his job. He basically sold his house or whatever, got all his money, bought an RV. He and his wife are traveling around the world, or around North America, I guess you could say, in their RV. I don't think the RV is quite like space balls flying through space and stuff.
Okay.
Or over water. But
Sounds
no, I mean
cool,
he's traveling all over, and he's going to be joining us. I think he said somewhere around North Carolina or something. He's going to be joining us from. So
Nice.
our traveling photographer is going to be making an appearance for the first time on the show next week. He's going to be our special guest. Make sure you watch that. It'll be a lot of fun. Glenn's just a fun guy to begin with. So we're going to hear some of his stories of his travels and what it takes to be like this is a photography life he's living now.
Mm-hmm. It's
Can't
awesome.
w-
Travel, shoot some more.
I know, right? Like we're talking about maybe Gabe, you and Navi were talking about like in Arizona or something like that. And here's a guy
The
who's
Four
just
Corners.
his whole point of going to Arizona would be for the photography. So I can't wait to see
That's
what.
cool.
And he would leave when he's done taking pictures, not because he has to go back to work.
Right, exactly. And if the
Yeah,
light's
I
not
like
right
that.
that day, he'll stick around for another day and
Yeah.
wait for the right light. Like I just can't wait to hear from Glenn. So keep your ears and your eyes tuned to our show for next week, and that's it. So thank
Okay.
you everybody for watching us this week. Phil, I know you don't have your big launch surprise yet, but how do
At
people
some point, I'll have it ready.
like what could people hire you for? I mean, I know you're still teaching for the School of Imaging or the Learning Lab in Oshawa.
Basically, some photo classes,
Woodworking.
general, apparently some woodworking, general financial education is part of what I'm actually kind of working on. I'm working through more of the how I can do it without doing the wrong thing kind of thing, because as far as advice goes, I can give advice, but not advice about like products, so to speak. So part of I know. Part of what I'm looking at is doing more of like financial education. So someone really isn't sure about things, come in, talk about something, basically give the ideas behind it, but not recommend product or service. Basically say these are options. You can use these options. I'm not the one that implements those for you. That kind of stuff. Going to schools, talking there about what it means to not have a credit card and buy stuff on it when you actually can't pay for it. That kind of stuff.
Huh. So motivational speaking, great.
Sort of. But financial motivation. But if you want to get in touch with me, you can always do it through Google+. Alternatively, you can get in touch with me at my email, which is just my first name and my last name at hotmail.com.
Very cool. All right. And Gabriel, how's your wedding stuff winding up or down right now?
Yeah, it's I just finished one of the last big projects for the year, and but we're still doing family portraits, corporate portraits, things like that. Family portraits becomes pretty busy around the holiday times and stuff. So yeah, loving it. Still going full steam.
And
All
you've
caught
got
up now
your website right there in your lower third, bousquetphotography.ca. Very
because
cool.
it's not easy to spell. So.
All right. Well, thank you as well, Gabe, for being on this week. And I'm glad everything worked out with our show this week. Everybody stayed through the whole show. Everybody was healthy.
Yeah. No one
Very
disappeared.
No one disappeared.
Sound worked. Video worked.
And, from me to you guys, I mean, I'm going to be kind of crazy in the next couple of weeks. And I know it's going to be nuts. And when I'm on the show, it's probably going to be, the shell of Brian at times. So while I'm still coherent and awake and very rested, I just want to say, happy holidays. Hope everybody has a great time, makes a lot of great photos. Don't forget our photo challenges, family and winter scene. By the way, those were both picked by my lovely wife, Shelley, the Christmas elf.
Fantastic.
Yep. I said, Shelley, Christmas scene. What do you want it to be? Family. Done.
And it's a good time of year for that.
It is. All right. That's it. We're out. Peace.
All
Thanks,
right.
everybody. Have a good night, and
Have a
see
good
you all
night.
next week.